So we're here in St. Louis with Christopher Shulte, who is an advocate for life.
For life, yes.
And I really love your perspective. We had a brief conversation earlier. You were referred to me by someone in one of the organizations locally here as being the right person for this interview. So let's make that really work. But I think giving the perspectives that you have for life, just give us a background on that. I'm looking around your house; it's just amazing. The handiwork that you've managed to do, and you're an amazing person with what you produce. So you must have that in your mind. You must have that working for you.
I have this. I've given myself permission to play.
Yeah.
Quite a few years ago, I needed some basic therapy, and I allowed myself the artistic expression to start coming out. And from that, it just kept on blossoming and blossoming, and I had just allowed that to be a guiding force in my life. And through that, I ended up in art, working in art, and then we ended up opening up a nonprofit corporation, which is a registered 501c3, and it's all based in art, and 100% of the proceeds go back to the community. So
So it's like a cycle.
It's a cycle. So it's been a very healthy. This expression has been a very healthy way for me to enrich my life.
So our organization and our project here, Health Challenge, is focused more specifically at nutrition and exercise, but there are other aspects to life that are important to get your head wrapped around to make it work.
Well, yeah, I've been dealing with these challenges since the early 80s also, so many people have. And I was on the road to trying to have a healthy life before I was challenged.
Okay.
So
You were figuring it out.
I was figuring it out. Yeah. By the age of 18, I was this fat, screwed up kid who had no social abilities and kind of dumb. And so I started blossoming from there. So I got a lot more physical. So I lost, over 5 years, I lost about 120 pounds. Had the plastic surgery to correct the abdominals and the back to get everything toned, and I really started hitting the gyms. And I did an enormous amount of work there. And then I was faced with the HIV challenge. And I didn't let that stop me. I just continued that process. And within the process, I started to get a lot of the deterioration. And I eventually took all of my physical activities, lifting weights, and I was a big bicyclist. I loved my bicycle.
Yeah, me too. I grew into that.
I had this sweet bicycle. I had a love affair with my bicycle, but I couldn't ride it anymore. So I started yoga. And the yogic path helped me an enormous amount. And I just saw what I learned from everybody I could learn from within the restrictions of the monetary thing.
Right.
None of these things are cheap,
Right.
unless we have programs for them.
Right.
So what I just kept on learning, and I decided that this has been such a beneficial thing for me that I wanted to teach yoga to people with any kind of challenges. We all have challenges.
Right. Everybody's got baggage.
Everybody. And it's whether we allow the baggage to control us or we manage the baggage.
Exactly.
It's got to be an internal thing. It's got to be an internal thing. So I did the yogic path, and it has helped me an enormous amount. And I have also been working with the ACTU, which is the AIDS Clinical Trial Unit at Washington University. I've been working with them since 1988.
Wow.
So I was on the original AZT protocol.
Wow.
So I was a test subject for them for many years, and it was a phenomenal relationship because it was a 20-something year relationship so far.
Right.
But so I always thought that I would help myself by helping others if I could in any way. So with that, and then we ended up falling into developing clinical study that I was involved with yoga, studying yoga against the metabolic issues of HIV. So I got involved in that. So that really helped me come out even more being an advocate for health.
Was that a published study, or
I'm not sure of all the results I ended up getting out of it before the end of the study. So,
but it's really worthy to finding a way to evaluate something such as yoga is difficult. Having the endpoints that are achievable and approachable.
right.
So it's a lot more difficult than things that have easy benchmarks.
Well, also with the idea of yoga and doing the study, we ended up having to take a lot of the spirituality out of it because we had to look at it from the scientific perspective, which I understand that, but for me, so much of the spirituality and the reflection within what is the most important aspect of it.
There's ways to build outcome measures that are useful, but it's not easy. To include that aspect of it. It's a bottom line thing when you say, oh, how much better is this person? And you have to find the outcome measures that you can define,
Well, I think it's getting the person, number one, to encourage the person to take some responsibility for their own health and their own well-being.
Exactly.
I think that's the most important thing. All the medical professionals out there are phenomenal. I love them. I hate them. They're it's challenging out there, but we have to encourage the individual to take that responsibility for their own health so that they can embrace it. And I think the more, I'm getting ahead of myself, I'm getting lost. Sorry. But the more we empower ourselves, the more power we have. The more able we are to face the challenges and the contradictions. And the more we accept the way things are, especially for me, the more I accept the way things are, the easier it is to deal with. The older we get, the worse our conditions get, or my conditions I guess I should say my condition gets. I just try to accept that. I don't like it, but it's
There's a certain amount you have to accept it, and a certain amount you can work to improve still, but you have to realize there's a sense, just like me, I realize I can't do 100 and some miles every day on the bicycle. It's insane. So now I'm dropping back to 50 or 60.
Right.
You modify what you're doing to be realistic, I guess, with what you can do.
Well, also, it's I talk to some of the people who are older than I am. I'm going to be 55 this year. So I talk to some of the people who are older than I am, who don't necessarily have the severity of the health challenges. And I tell them it's just part of the process of aging and maturing that we allow ourselves to either slow down or cut back because we're not 20 anymore.
Right.
At times, people like me and people, our aging seems to advance. So I try to embrace that. It's my right to slow down. I don't have to do everything I used to do. I'm more concerned about the quality of what I live with rather than the quantity of it. And try. It's a challenge at times to embrace all of it.
Because there's a lot. It's a lot to it, and it changes. It's constantly fluidly changing. For me, it is, because I know I've found there's things that I thought, oh, I didn't know I couldn't do that anymore. I have a little more problem with balance when it's dark. So I know that I'm not dealing with the middle ear the way I should anymore. But you kind of learn to adapt, I think, with some of these things that you can't change. And for me, I always want to improve the things I can.
I don't ever think about improving. At times it's maintaining, but I try to look at, if I look at it as far as improving, it's like I'm acknowledging something's wrong.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, and it's taking that power away from, yes, there are problems there, and I'm going to acknowledge you. I'm not going to let that control me.
Okay.
So I try not to look at it in that way. I've recently had another little quick bout of wasting and the fat redistribution going on, and it made a remarkable change in my yoga practice. It made a remarkable change in my whole life. But I just work at it to make it as good as it can possibly be, rather than think.
Because, you know, it's funny you mentioned that with the wasting thing, and we still don't have that all nailed down. We don't know all of the what's, whys, and wherefores and so forth, but we still manage to work with it. You know, we work with it and live with it.
I don't think we're ever going to find out all the answers, because we are all such unique individuals, and our genetic makeup and everything else, and our lifestyle and our attitude have so many things to do with it. You know, and they're still having that debate: is it the condition? Is it the disease? Is it the medications? Is it the longevity? Is it the natural aging process?
But what I'm getting from you is a philosophical approach that you have to center yourself on something, and learn from that and live that philosophy. It seems like you have. You've adapted to a philosophy that works for you, and maybe it's helpful to others. I don't know that people can look at it.
I think of it as, you know, I have to have purpose in life. You know, why am I here? You know, I hear so many of those questions. Why am I still here? Why didn't I die? You know, I hear those questions.
Some sort of a guilt complex.
And I never try to ask why. I'm just like, there's a reason why I'm here. Just I experience it and let it happen. So I work on my duty. You know, what is my purpose in life? And you know, and I have so many restrictions that I live with and are supposed to live on, and you know, so that I live within my restrictions, the physical, the financial, all of them. I put them all together, but I still try to make the best that I can out of it. But along with that, I think there's several other dynamics of it. We need some prosperity in our life, you know, and not necessarily financial prosperity, but a richness in our life. You know, the appreciation of beauty, a love, accepting love, giving love, sharing, you know, compassion, you know. I consider that a richness.
All human qualities.
Right,
that are,
you know, part of
not disputing that at all.
Yeah,
It's fabulous.
and you know, we do need some pleasure in our lives. You know, sometimes we need the creature comforts. Everyone needs the creature, you know, needs to be protected some way, you know, have some shelter and some sanctuary. You know, I heard it described one time as a powerful businessman needs a powerful suit. A bicyclist needs a good bicycle. Doesn't have to be the best, but it needs a good piece of equipment so that you're safe to go on your mission. So you need to be taken care of so that you can achieve your mission or your, you know, perform your duty. And then and I think there's also trying to find a place where we're free of, well, in my case, the shame of still dealing with this, the shame of the mistakes that a lot of people make in life, or I've made some poor choices, I'm sure, but being
But
free of
everyone does. I think
everyone does. I believe that we're all the same. We just have different issues that we're dealing with. And I think if we go wide enough and far enough, we can find people who are dealing with some of the same issues we are.
Well, that's the reason I really appreciated the opportunity to visit with you, because the woman that I visited with on the phone, she said, I know this guy is going to be good because he really has looked at things from a very good perspective. And people will learn from where you are and where you're going. And that's what we wanted to achieve here.
The longer I experience this, the more touched I get, the more emotional I get, the more I come out of my head and go into my heart. And I try to live from my heart the most, which is hard sometimes going out into the world,
right.
With leading with your heart open. But for me, that's an important aspect of my life, is acknowledging the love that I feel and the love that I have. I try not to live with regrets, but my confidant asked me, it's just like, if you could go back and change this, what would you change? And I keep on saying, you can't go back and change anything, so why waste my time thinking about what would I change? It's just like it's happened. There's not a damn thing we can do about it.
Move forward.
I want to live. Maybe I want to live.
Exactly.
There's a lot of life out there. And I want to embrace as much of it as I can.
We were given the opportunity for this life, and we should really appreciate it and do as much as we can to make it a whole life experience.
Well, I think it's really honoring the gift of life. Life can beat anybody down. It can beat anybody down, but it's such a gift, and we have the potential to do phenomenal things.
More than we might have ever dreamed sometimes. And it's just, I experience that myself every day, just visiting with people like you and Andy this morning. So I know that there's people out there that are good to visit with, who are going to help others, to nurture them into a different frame of mind. And I'm hopeful that this is the kind of interview that we can get to make some changes in people's lives.
Well, I think that's a fabulous idea, or else I wouldn't be doing this. But I think it'd be kind of a shame if I went through all of this and didn't embrace the opportunity for someone to learn something.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that I say I am the greatest role model in the world, not that I say that I have all the answers. I don't. I'm an expert of me.
Right.
And
you have a certain element and amount of pearls of wisdom that somebody's going to pick up, and someone else is going to, and all of it's going to eventually mature and help people wholly live a better life.
A buddy of mine wants me to write a book. She has minor health challenges, she is not totally clear about a lot of aspects of my life, but she thinks I should write a book. And I keep on saying, yeah, we'll do it. And she wrote me a paragraph of telling me what she saw in me.
Mm-hmm. It's tough, huh? Yeah.
Kind of like, how do I live up to that?
Yeah, yeah.
And
but see, you're looking at it's hard looking back at yourself, isn't it? Sometimes it's amazing. I don't think any of us appreciate what we are gifted with, and when we are aware of it, it becomes even more empowering. I think it's helpful and useful for us to re-examine. That's why I do what I do in the program.
Yeah.
What I do is I ask each person to evaluate where they are in their life. It's kind of a survey, but it's really more not necessarily just for me, but for them to say, what kind of write down where I'm at, where do I want to go, what are my goals, objectives, what are life challenges, and people don't really take stock of where they're at, and sometimes how well they're doing, and how, you know what I mean?
oh, yeah. You step outside. If you're able to
take
step
a look
outside,
back.
be the observer.
Yeah.
Sometimes they talk about being the observer in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Stepping outside of it, and then you say, well, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty crappy over there. yeah, that's pretty amazing. I've had the wonderful opportunity to work with people on an enormous amount of levels. Get to know them very well, and some professionally, some personally. And the thing I keep on coming back to with so many people, and it's something that's very important to me, is passion.
Mm-hmm. Live your passion.
What is your passion?
Yeah.
What is my passion of life? And one of my favorite quotes is, the energy of passion is everything. Mm-hmm. It's from a Rumi poem. Mm-hmm. And I believe that, because if you're passionate about something,
mm-hmm.
that
everything else will be passionate.
start blossoming,
yeah.
and everything will be enriched.
I think it's like putting the right kind of people who are, like you said, interested in like art, like you've become really familiar and excited about and passionate about. It seems like that turns on a switch or something in people, I think. It did for me, and I think there's certain areas of the country or places where you find yourself or place you're living that actually make that more conducive.
Yes, it's make it more conducive. It's also finding the encouragement
Mm-hmm.
to find your passion. Because I think a lot of times we're repressed so much
Mm-hmm.
with achieving that we lose sight of the passion. So I think it's having that opportunity for someone saying, yes, you deserve passion. Yes, open yourself up. Embrace it. We need these opportunities, these venues for people to come in a safe place where they can make themselves vulnerable enough to find their strength. Because I think being compassionate, being sincere, sometimes are looked as weaknesses. But I think if I'm compassionate and sincere and honest, that I will have more strength. So I'm not afraid at times to put myself into a vulnerable position. Because something
good will come
yeah,
out.
yeah, you know. And fortunately, I still have enough defense mechanisms I can...
You can use that if you need to. Yeah.
I know where the exit is.
Right. Well, speaking of exit, I know I promised you I wouldn't take you too long away from what you're doing, but I really do appreciate the time we spent here, Christopher. And
My
it's
pleasure.
been a learning experience, as always. And I really would like to visit you in another 5 or 10 years, or maybe even 20 years, and see your book, and we'll see how that all goes. And I just I think that's the kind of thing I'd like to do the next time around the country.
Yeah,
Just come back and revisit the people.
Revisit.
See how all these things worked out.
My one doctor keeps on telling me, he goes, I want you to be my longest term patient. He goes, I want you to be celebrating your 50th anniversary.
Outlive the doctor.
Yeah, and I was just like, are you really sure you want,
Well, it seems to me that that's going to be the case. And I thank you so much, Christopher.
My pleasure. Thank you,
very
Fred.
much.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you.